So you are a e-commerce fashion brand and you've gone ahead, you made your designs, you've studied the market, you've come up with a set of unique selling points, you've gone through the arduous task of reaching out to manufacturers, getting samples, getting manufacturing done, landing in your warehouse, and now it's time. You made your first order, but how do you deliver it to your customer? What is the best way to get our product from our hands to our customers' hands, especially as a startup brand? There's a variety of different ways, and we'll start off with number one. The simplest and most straightforward, and it requires zero investment from your side, which is self-fulfillment. Self-fulfillment essentially means that you do everything yourself. You pick the order, you pack it, and then you ship it to your customer. What is the big pro here? Well, the major pro is that you have full control over the entire process. Also, you are not at the mercy of another third-party person who's going to pick and pack your order for you. What are the cons? If you are a first-time logistics person, so this means that you're doing this for the first time, believe me when I say, when it comes to picking, packing, storing, and delivering to your customer, this is by far the most complex part of any logistics system. And I've seen many large companies actually transition from doing fulfillment themselves to actually going for a 3PL because it's more efficient. Number two is when you feel you've bottlenecked, when you don't see it as a potential for you to carry on your logistics anymore by yourself, you can explore a 3PL or a third-party fulfillment company. These companies specialize in doing the warehousing. They'll store your products, they'll integrate them into their own inventory tracking systems, which then link up into your tracking system, and they'll do everything for you from A to Z. The major pro here is that you can get massive scalability exactly when you need it at pretty much no additional cost. Another major pro here is that it gives you a full flexibility when it comes to how you deliver your order. Typically, 3PLs will have a variety of different shipping options. They typically benefit from economies of scale when it comes to shipping, just simply because they ship with such a sheer volume of amount of shipments. I mentioned that as a self-fulfillment option, 1,000 units per month is pretty much the cap. Between 1,000 and pretty much 50,000 shipments a month, this is the sweet spot for a 3PL. Number three is drop shipping. This is essentially where you find a product at a factory that is available, you pick the product, and you get the customer, you make the sale, and you link that sale to the product that's at the factory or the warehouse that you're drop shipping from. That factory or warehouse will then pack the order and will ship it directly to your consumer. You don't hold any of the inventory, you don't stock it, you don't ship it. The major pro here is that you can A/B test a lot of product pretty fast. You can also completely eliminate any need for warehousing space from your side, any additional need for labor in order to pick and pack, which is a major plus. The major downside here is that you lose a lot of control. You really don't control how the product appears and arrives to your customer. There's many horror stories online of people who have gotten into dropshipping and have found that their consumer is actually receiving the wrong product or it's horribly packed simply because of how shady and how very difficult it can be to control and how difficult it can be to actually manage these sorts of dropshipping systems. Back in the day in 2017, 2016, there was something what is known as fidget spinners. Imagine being the person who discovered fidget spinners 2-3 months before they really went mainstream. That's a great product to dropship because there's no point in you doing the R&D, doing the prototyping, doing the manufacturing for a product that already exists. It has its molds, has its actual product base. All you need to do is connect the product to the customer. Consider dropshipping only if you're going for a product that already exists in the market and a product that still hasn't hit its stride but has the potential to hit its stride. Number four is Fullfillment by Amazon, or FBA. This is a great option for those who want the benefits of a 3PL, but also the logistics network of Amazon and the credibility of being on Amazon. If you're listed on Amazon, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be viewed as a credible company. It's going to give you an enhanced image and enhanced visibility simply just by being on Amazon. Some of the major cons is that there's a lot of competition on Amazon FBA. You're going to have to pay to put your products up in the rankings, whether it's sponsoring them, whether it's getting reviews. This is going to add overhead costs to your product and it's going to make it more difficult to sell your product. Another thing is that you also lose control over the final fulfillment. Typically with Amazon FBA, it functions in a similar way to a 3PL, but you get the added benefit of being on Amazon's platform. There's also a lot of competition, so make sure that you know and you're doing your research on what product category you're tapping into, what price point you're trying to hit. If your price point is too high and your competition is offering the same product but at a lower price, so making sure that you have a verified status and that you have great reviews on Amazon is going to be key. You need to play the game in order to succeed with Amazon. So there is an added barrier to entry despite how easy it is to actually get into Amazon FBA. Number five, you can consider a hybrid fulfillment style. This essentially means that you bring in 2 or more different types of fulfillment opportunities to your business. A good example of this might be that you have a small shop on Amazon FBA for your core staple products that you know are at a more attractive and affordable price point that are simply to get consumers through the door. And then for your more seasonal or your capsule items or your specialized thematic items, those are only available available on your store. That's a good example of using Amazon FBA for your staple items and using your self-fulfillment in order to do your seasonal or your collection drops. The major pro of a hybrid fulfillment style is that you get more control over your costs. For the costs or the garments or the products that you know you have a higher margin on, you can expand that margin simply by putting it through your own website. You can make it more exclusive by putting it through your own website. For products that you know already have a low margin or you're not so focused on making the highest margin possible, it's simply a loss leader to get customers through the door, to get them exposed to your brand, and maybe Amazon FBA is great. So you have that hybrid opportunity to play to the strengths of a product on each of the different platforms. Number 6, you can consider local fulfillment centers. So these centers function in a similar way to a 3PL. They essentially have the same setup, except these will be local to your specific area. So if you're in Los Angeles, it might be in Burbank. If you're in New York, then it might be in Brooklyn. These fulfillment centers are typically also run at a smaller scale, and they typically have better pricing because you're gonna have a more personalized relationship with the entity itself. The advantage here is that they're closer to you. If there are any issues, you can go and address them directly. The major cons here come in the form of scalability. Typically, these are privately owned, or they're not really these large corporations that have major economies of scale. If you need access to increased leverage, a local fulfillment center may find it more difficult to scale with you depending on your needs, simply because their operation is smaller and they're not as well placed to do so. Number 7 is in-store fulfillment. This essentially means that if you have a physical location, that you can fulfill your online orders from your store directly. If you have a storage space or a small warehousing space in the back of the shop, then you can immediately ship out from there. The major pro here is, again, it gives you that self-fulfillment advantage of being able to pick, pack, and ensure the products are shipped to your consumer in exactly the way that you want. You can double check to make sure that the garment size, the garment color is all correct. You can add a personalized letter to your consumer depending on who they are or what season they're purchasing from. The major con here is that it may be disruptive to your in-store operations, simply because your store is not actually created in order to fulfill or act as a warehouse. It's there to be a storefront and to get consumers through the door, to engage and to look at your products and to look at your inventory. Having people coming in and out of the store or even from the back disrupts the flow, disrupts the opportunity, and it just distracts from the primary focus of a retail space, which is to create a retail experience, to enhance the brand value, and of course, to drive sales for the brand. Each of these 7 options has its pros and cons, and effectively it depends on what type of product that you're offering, what type of brand image that you're trying to set, what your price points are, so where you slot in. Are you premium? Are you affordable? Are you mid-market? Also, it comes down to where you live. Where you live in the world and where you're operating your business from gives you more or less different opportunities in terms of fulfillment. Let me know which of these 7 options you guys see as best for your specific situation, and if you would add any additional ones to there, I'd love to know what they are. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. I say this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.